Hello everyone, Will the World War II Collector here. Today's video is all about the Living History UK Festival, which was held at Moira Museum and Country Park on the 22nd and 23rd of April 2023. The festival covered the history of the British Army from the New Model Army of 1645 to Afghanistan in 2012. Me and my dad had weekend tickets and camped out on the site on the Friday and Saturday in, let's say, a large enough tent for two people. We had such a fantastic weekend, learnt loads and met some amazing people, some of them you'll see in this video. Before we start, I want to say a huge thank you to Steve Davis, Pete Neal, Don Blythe and Danny Rees of Living History UK for putting on such a great weekend. I've made loads of new friends and had some awesome opportunities open up for me because of the festival, and I really appreciate the effort and time you all invested to make it an event to remember.
With tactics, if it all got bent out of shape, it would go wrong. Here you see they're about to do loading,
cartridge,
getting the cartridge out of their cartridge box, thick leather box at the rear, designed to keep the sparks out during firing. Because if the spark goes in there, the cartridge box goes up.
It's quite loud this.
This would have a full load of 60 rounds. It would be like a very large bomb going on. So there we are, they primed, and now putting the powder down the barrel.
withdraw, ramrods,
The essential bit, ramrod going into the barrel,
ram down, cartridge,
ram down, tamping it down.
return, ramrods,
Now this is the drill way of doing it. In battle, rather than all these individual commands, they will be given the command primelo, and everybody would do it in their own time as quickly as possible. Famously, the British, in theory, were capable of firing 3 and possibly at times even 4 rounds a minute, which was prodigious firepower compared with what the French, in most cases, were able to deliver.
section will give volley fire, make, ready, present, fire, shoulder, arms,
The volley fires, you imagine, are different. They have statement of the obvious, a green uniform. Now there are a lot of myths about the green uniform, almost as many as the red coat. But as you can see, they're marching on at quick time, not at the ordinary time of everybody else. And here you can see that amongst them, with the green jacket and blue trousers, are a pair of 5th, 60th riflemen. So this is a composite group of the 5th, 60th and the 95th.
Rifles, wheel on the left. Left, wheel, march.
They were supposed to do the drill in exactly the same as the ordinary soldiers. Here we are doing ordinary time of the redcoats, but they also, as we will see later in the tactical demonstration, be expected to learn light infantry drill as well. So they had 2 lots of drill to learn.
Rifle!
See, they have full equipped marching order, same as everybody else, a knapsack, and they also have the haversack, which is the linen coloured bag below. That's where the food was carried. Often the food, bread and meat. The meat was often issued freshly butchered and raw. And so those bags very quickly became stained, blood stained, and frankly a health hazard. During this period, more soldiers became casualties as a result of sickness than they ever did as a result of battle casualties.
So we're loaded already.
As you can see, they have a much shorter weapon. It is the short infantry rifle, otherwise known as the Baker rifle in later periods. Can somebody draw a sword, please? There we are. It doesn't have a bayonet, it has a sword bayonet, and the command is fixed swords, unfixed swords. And actually today, the modern rifles, they still use the command unfixed swords. So even though it's exactly the same bit of kit as everybody else says fixed bayonets, the tradition of fixing and unfixing swords is one of the things that distinguishes us riflemen today. We have in the centre our 2 5th 60th. They're wearing the earlier pattern cap that doesn't actually have a cover, and you can see that they have the bugle horn badge and the green plume that indicates that they are light infantry. All light infantry had green plumes. There was red-coated light companies with a green plume. So it was a distinction, lighter, more active men and soldiers, frankly, that were capable of learning 2 sets of drill and doing them equally well. So that's enough about the 95th Rifles. What are you planning to do now?
To do a fire advance, Alexa.
A what?
A fire advance,
Yes, okay. Down that way.
Rifle, right wheel on the centre, right wheel, march. Rifle, ordinary, march. Rifle, forward.
Rifles or the light companies would be deployed in front of the redcoats. They would be formed on the left normally as junior company, number 10 company, the light company, and then from there they would be ordered out and they would go out in a block like this, and then they would extend. Redcoats just getting out of the way.
Rifle, right, turn, section to the right.
Rifles, light troops in more extended formation. Here, sergeant whistle, but even that was really cut through. The bugle was much louder, and you can see that they're now spread out. Company 19, all carrying a 5 a long frontage. And 5 turns, 1 man loads. While he's loading, the other man covers him. When he's loaded, he hits the target and fires.
Rifles, close!
Right, to break the top forward back, and they're closing. They're going to try and hold the line there. We'll see what happens with the exit.
Rifles, fire and retire!
There he is, he's giving them pushing us back against the line. The rifle bugle is a really good way of doing it, but poor old soldier had to recognise his own regimental call and about a dozen other police calls in battle
Rifles, in your own ground. Stage face, your own ground, right and left. Face. March.
This is circular movement, making sure the right-hand man is in the right place. It was inverted or boxed was what they called it. And if you manage to get yourself boxed on a brigade exercise, everybody would very quickly be laughing at you. And it's very easily done.
Section will give volley fire. Make ready.
This is what British infantry are famous for.
Fire!
That is a very good volley. The more rounds they fire, the less reliable the musket is led, and now they've got these guys coming to them steadily and quietly.
Eyes, front, shoulder, out. Company will retire in files from the right, face.
It looks very complicated for the soldiers. It's complicated, and we've all grown up doing the ordinary soldiers drill, and then progressing through NCO's drill, to officers drill, and it is remarkably complicated. Sam there is having to think several steps ahead of where he's going and what he's going to do. Planning it ahead. Not simple. There you saw Sergeant Love using his spontoon to get some really good dressing before the next presentation.
General, salute! Present! Arms! Right and center! Kick down!
Infantry
Ready.
during the American Revolution,
Present!
War of Independence, depending on which.
Come on, out! Charge,
Order here.
Who bloody did that? That makes me a very angry sergeant. I will be having word and giving them an education. So the swiftness swiftness and quickness of that, we've now moved from the 1740s to the 1770s in what we call the American War. The Americans call it independence. Rubbish! It is a revolution against British interests and His Majesty's policy in the colonies. So we have a detachment here of His Majesty's 33rd Regiment of Foot, which were known as the Patty. They were under the command of Charles the Earl Cornwallis.
Halt!
The soldiers that you saw previously from the 1740s
your left.
and 50s
Face.
and into the 60s, we can now see slight differences in the uniforms, of which the corporal can pull them out and then bring them along so the ladies and gentlemen can see.
Recover. Arms. To your right. Face.
First of all, you saw that the men advanced quickly onto the
Fall
field.
on the ground. To your right.
In America,
Right.
because of the terrain, the British Army had to adapt readily to its tactics. So what you see before you now is the average redcoat or Thomas Lobster of His Majesty's Army in America. On his head, you see this still retains the shape of the cocked hat. The famous red coat, again differentiated between regiments by the facing, the collar and the cuffs, and the lace loop pattern that you can see there. Around their bodies, they wear a number of belts and accoutrements. The men are in what we call pack order. They are not wearing knapsacks. In America, if you turn yourselves round, gentlemen, the ladies and gentlemen can see, the knapsacks were frequently kept either on board ship or in camp and pack order with the blanket rolled, as you can see thus. Around also you will see the cartridge box or pouch, again which held in this case 29 rounds of ball cartridge, and on its other side, left about face, bring themselves round so they can see please. You can see on the left side the canteen and the haversack, of which he carried 3 days marching rations of either salt pork, beef, hard biscuit and such like. They are dressed according to the warrant of 1768 with the red coat, a very unique red facing for the 33rd, white wool cloth knee breeches. If you look down towards the stocking, the knitted stockings, and the short black gaiters and shoes just there. A canteen of water, and then is carried likewise on the left side. The bayonet and the musket they carry is the short land pattern brown bess. If you look at the individual muskets, you'll see, like all the other British redcoats in this period, it is a flintlock mechanism. It is a 42-inch barrel, and then the bayonet, obviously, on fixed there. The British Army was known for two things in America: its ability to move fast and at speed. It had learnt the lessons. It did no longer stick to the linear lines. You can't do this in America. So it adapted very quickly, and from the lessons learned from previous wars and the French-Indian Wars. So the 33rd were trained specifically as, in all but name, a light infantry unit. They were known for their swiftness, and the second thing that terrified these rebels was the use of the bayonet by the British soldier. Swift and quick firing and onto the rebels straight away, taking His Majesty's argument to these moaning, whinging colonial rebels at the point of the bayonet. Corporal.
Sergeant.
Fall them in, and we go to 1764 manual exercise for landing.
How's it work? Fall in.
So now I've asked the corporal to fall the men in, and you can see a slight difference in the loading pattern.
That's all there.
An arm stand between you and the man next to you.
You'll note that they're not too bunched in. They're
Boys! Fire!
in close order.
Cock! Fire!
So the order's been given with the hammer, cock the firelock.
Present!
If you're loaded, don't actually fire. Fire. Right, go back to the road.
Half cock, firelocks.
So half-cock firelocks.
Handle, cartridge.
The cartridge has been ordered to take out of the pouch, which is at the bottom here. Now the cartridge, in reality, was a paper tube with the ball in the top and the powder.
Shut, pans.
The top of the
Come on,
cartridge
shut pans down to the
is taken off.
loaded
And
cartridge.
The rest of the powder poured down the barrel, as you can see.
Draw rammers.
Still of note is in the particular order with the
Run
ramrods.
down cartridge.
And the cartridge, the powder and the ball is now rammed down to the bottom of the barrel.
Return rammers. Shoulder firelocks. Section will give volley fire. Make ready.
Now again, systems of firing in America
Present.
in the stand-up firings and battles than platoon fire. But also at this
Load.
period, the soldier was taught to work in pairs, individually,
Load.
to cover his file partner and to do particular aim fire. Orders were also augmented for the troops to what we call lay upon your arms and take to tree. The British Army frequently kneeled, took as much cover as it possibly could in America. And again, this
Back
is
to the
something
shoulder when
which
you're loaded.
has to be considered.
Section will give volley fire. Make ready.
After we've done this now, we would invite you
Present.
all to come back to the 18th century camp.
Fire.
See the collective group.
Load.
You're more than welcome to explore
Come on, loads.
the differing periods. So please do come along and talk to all the groups from the Mulberry period right through to ourselves of the Revolutionary War period. We are always looking for likely lads to take the killing, of course, and to put insurrection and rebellion down from these, as I say, moaning, whinging colonials who rubbish on about their taxes. Rubbish. So we're going to be one more as we fall back in onto the main
To the
body.
right of section. Advance to the Indian file.
And form one company and do a one volley for you.
Quick,
Our
march.
play is then now finished after the next volley, and then, as I say, you are more than welcome to come and visit any of our groups in the camp. Just to the right. So thank you very much for your attention, ladies and gentlemen.
Full-time standing army in 1644. We have at best what's called trained bands. They are trained bands of men who are essentially part-time soldiers, okay? Not necessarily uniformed as we think of it, but they are armed with two main weapons. So, in 1645, Parliament had realised that the war was starting to turn in favour of the Royalists, so something needed to give. So the new model army, or new army model as it was termed at the time, was created. So what that meant was Parliament had control under the militia ordinance at that moment in time to create a full-time standing army in England specifically. We have two impressions to show you here. If you guys would like to move forward. We have one man with a giant cocktail stick. You think you could level it? Is that enough distance?
Yeah, I should be able to go that way.
Charge your pike. So this is what's known as a pike. It's made from ash. It's around 16 feet in length. You see on the end, there's a nice sharp pointy thing, and then there's some metal langets on the end. Recover your pipe. That is used as primarily a defensive arm. So cavalry don't like things that are sharp. They will not charge against it. Horses are not stupid. The riders might be. However, that's our defensive arm. So when it comes to offensive, we have something which is relatively new. This is called a musket. Want to come forward? So the musketeer has a matchlock musket. So what that is it's your lock, which is your matchlock. You have a piece of slow match. This is a piece of rope that burns very slowly. You will cock your match, and the match will hit the pan, which is where the powder is. It will ignite a small charge of powder, and then hopefully set off the main charge. You'd be lucky if you could get 2 shots in a minute with a matchlock musket. Very cumbersome, but cutting edge technology at that moment in time. You'll also see the musketeer, like the pikeman, is armed with a tuck or a hanger. So it's a short sword for defensive purposes. Want to return back? So that is the new model army of 1645. That is our starting point, because that's where the British Army as we know it today really started, with the new model army.
At the back to corn, and they are going to give fire in a moment, so I'll stop talking. It's a very slow process loading a matchlock musket. Sort of manoeuvre by manoeuvre.
Have a care! Prepare to give fire! Give fire!
This is Trev, the leader of the Black Button Bastards living history group who realistically portray the Rifle Brigade during World War II. Unfortunately, I didn't get any good photos of their displays, but my dad got this fab photo of Trev which I put on my Instagram story. A few minutes later, I got a message from a member of the East Yorkshire Living History group who were also at the festival asking for the photo, so I sent it and got these in return. I really enjoyed our chat, Trev. Thank you for your time, and I'm sure I'll see you at an event in the future. Make sure you all go follow Black Button Bastards Living History Group on Instagram.
So Britain's army has evolved slightly. You will see the coat is a little bit different, but it's red, and that's a theme you can see continued pretty much up to the halfway point in our lineup. He is armed with a musket, however it's not a matchlock musket, this is a flint lock. So what that means is the lock, instead of having a piece of match that's lit that burns the powder, we have a piece of flint in a lock that hits a piece of metal and scrapes little sparks into the pan to set that main charge off. He's armed with a bayonet, but also retains the sword as well. We'll lose that very shortly. If you want to give us a spin round. There we go. Very flamboyant. It's all in the wrist. Naturally. We are coming up to the Battle of Culloden. This is in the Jacobite rebellion, that era. You can see that really, in 40 years, not much has changed. He's wearing the same hat. He's got the same style gaiters. He's got a bayonet. He's got a black powder flintlock musket as well. So the fighting style starts to change ever so slightly, but not really that much. You can see he's got his nice bayonet. Of course, the pike that we talked about earlier is redundant now. We don't need pikemen and musketeers. We just have musketeers essentially, because if you've got a cavalry running towards you, they're not going to charge on to that bayonet because it will hurt them a little bit. But also, you will see you've got the tuck or the hanger, the short little sword down there as well. Really more ornamental at that point in time. We will lose it shortly. Cartridges of black powder in this little pouch on the right hip. Again, we've still got a red coat at this point. The guys are fighting predominantly shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow, finding nice closed ranks at the enemy. Thank you very much.
Another one of the amazing people I met at the festival was a member of the Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire Living History Society, a man called Mike Bridgman. Mike was an extra in Band of Brothers and Saving Private Ryan, and we spent a good hour or so talking about his roles and how different scenes were filmed. He also introduced me to a living history group called the East Yorkshire Living History Group, and thanks to him I may just be joining their ranks this year. It was a pleasure talking to you, Mike, and I'm sure I'll run into you at another event in the future.
We're off to the beer tent, aren't we? Aye.
So if you can imagine any average British infantry company of any of the period of the red-coated soldier, you have a rough campaign-sized company. So again, the troops in all the periods that you've seen this morning were taught to fire in different matters, but the concentrated company fire or platoon fire in greater numbers as a battalion was pretty much the hallmark of the British soldier at the time. I've now moved out into close order formation to implement company volley, which we will wheel round and fire off into the woods.
This is going to be really cool.
Wheel left, wheel, march!
Wheeling is quite hard.
Company, halt! Aye, right, rest! Company will dress to order. On the right, dress to order. That allows three ranks to step forward and fight place. Company, make ready. The rear locking and to your right.
This is going to be really loud.
We'll have to have a look. If we get the dual manual out later on, maybe I can have a look at it.
It's me going who? And